All right, guys. So today we're going to take a look at Shanks, who's one of the strongest Yonko and considered to be one of the strongest characters in the verse. Now, there's quite a bit that goes on with Shanks, and a lot of it has to do with his mysterious nature. Now, Shanks has been in the series, of course, since the beginning. The pivotal hand-me-down, or the hat being passed down to Luffy, is, of course, one of the most memorable scenes in the series. But Shanks hasn't played a major role in much of the series. Now, he's a character that's been doing quite a bit, but that bit is still quite a bit unknown. And so we've seen him in some pivotal areas, that being speaking to the Gorosei, seeming to pull the strings behind Marineford, and more recently making an appearance to the forefront of the verse, coming out to actually fight and defend against certain characters. Now, what we can see here is a lot of things are changing, but they do seem to be pushing towards the end of the series and Shanks making a meaningful appearance. Now, this is pretty cool that Shanks is finally coming into the forefront of the series, but the issue here is we don't have too much to go off of for Shanks at the moment. Now, we can take a look at early Shanks and start to look at what he's done since his Sea King mishap. And a lot of people try to troll and downplay the Sea King taking his arm, but there are a few competing theories for why Shanks would allow something like that, right? Because Sea Kings end up getting beat up by early East Blue Luffy, so they're obviously not too powerful. Now, the issue here is that Shanks did get his arm ripped off, but this is probably because he either didn't care or was willing to give it up to save Luffy. Now, you might ask, why would Shanks not be too pressed about that? The thing is, he would do pretty much anything to give Luffy the chance he needed to become one of the greatest pirates ever. And in that scenario, losing an arm seems secondary to him. But let's start and move on to some of the actual feats that Shanks has acquired. Now, he's considered rivals with Mihawk, and I take that to mean that they're more sword buddies, that they do compete and sharpen their skill against each other. But if we actually saw the haki that Shanks has attributed now to what he was doing back when him and Mihawk were constantly, adversarial, I think he washes him. But at that point, it no longer becomes a sword contest and just a who has better hockey contest. And so I think that's why that adversary relationship comes into play. It's not particularly strength, but more so skill. And sure, Mihawk may be more skilled, but in One Piece, skill doesn't really determine who wins a fight. So if we take a look a little bit further, we can actually see during Marineford, Shanks is able to deter Kaido. Now, this isn't some washed old pirate crew riding Kaido. This is the Kaido that is only 2 years removed from the current story, and he should pretty much have all the same abilities and very close attributes to what he's had for years. And so that means Shanks scared away this guy that's Kaido doesn't take no for an answer, right? He just goes where he wants to, like the big ogre he is. And so when he does this thing, it just seems like he's turning away mainly because he needs to. And it clearly says in the data book that Shanks and him had a scuffle, right? A scuffle means that they encountered some level of combat and that they had to push one another away, essentially, because they both went their separate ways, with Kaido leaving and not actually going to Marineford. So what we're getting from this is that Shanks is at least Kaido level, and if not, he's at least scary enough to deter Kaido. But we can take a look quite a skip forward into the more recent chapters where Shanks essentially scares off Red Bull just by flashing his haki. And when he does that, Red Bull kind of, poops the bed, man. He's afraid of even coming into contact with Shanks. And because of this, it leaves the impression that Shanks outscales him or outclasses him so badly. If he lets that haki out, it's over with. He might even pass out. And so that's kind of indicative of who Shanks is as a character. And so, different people take that certain ways. Maybe he didn't want to fight all three characters at once. But that being said, he also was not afraid until Shanks showed up. So he's overwhelmingly the threat that he was afraid of. Now, the more recent chapters have revealed something to us, and that's mainly that he's fought a Kid. Now, Kid was coming for blood because last time he got his arm cut off, and he was really ready to get his get back, man. He just came back to show Shanks what was going on since he left Wano, and that this new power up, this new awakening, was going to do something to him, right? he would have done something to him, but Shanks actually shows up with Future Sight, and we start to see that even when Kid would have destroyed all of his fleet, right, his ships, he just precogs it about 15 or so seconds out and just straight up blitzes him and one-shots him. Now, Kid isn't a super heavy hitter, but he's powerful enough to stop other Yonko like Big Mom, stop them in their tracks, pin them down, make them collapse to the ground. And so, in this kind of scenario, he's outspeeding someone that has somewhat low end relative feats to Big Mom. Now, of course, he would never beat Big Mom by himself, but he can do things that help as a support character to, example for Law, to come in and deal the finishing blow. But with this being the case, it seems like even characters that are Law level that can scale to Blackbeard and damage Blackbeard aren't on a level where they can stop Shanks anymore. So this seems like Shanks is just outclassing not only the other Yonko, but all the worst gen, especially Luffy, and especially Blackbeard, and of course Buggy, right? We don't need to say too much about that. Now we're going to see what happens with the admirals recently. The current admirals get washed. The old admirals, including Akainu, Aokiji, etc., they really don't scale as far as what we've seen in the New World, and with the time skip, to many characters that are relevant. Now we're going to see Aokiji and what he does against Garp, but that doesn't mean they scale to the Yonko. So we're going to see more recently and get a feel for what's going on within the next few chapters, see if these guys even scale in this way that's relative to the admirals or anyone else. But as of right now, I personally have Shanks at the top of the verse, and he seems like a character that's going to take pretty much everyone except maybe Dragon, and if Eam is a combatant, maybe them, but other than that, it seems like Shanks is really the pinnacle of what this verse is trying to accomplish. So with all that being said, if you don't have Shanks in your top 5 to top 3, I don't know what you're doing, because he's definitely up there. So with that being said, I'll talk to you guys later. Comment down below where you think Shanks scales, who he might lose to, and just let me know and I'll get back to you. That's it for now. More content coming soon.